What kind of advice do you give to someone that's thinking about starting a business or
Yeah.
new into starting a business?
Yeah, and it's again, you gotta have the passion, right? And more importantly, you gotta be very, very good at time management, but you gotta have passion to do it. You gotta really, really nail down these days, your time, right? And you're
Yes.
going to, and it's gonna take probably a good, I would say any business these days is gonna be at least 2 to 4 years
Mhm.
before you don't have the pain any longer. And that
And it's hard to be patient through that.
it is.
I've spent the last 8 years embedded in our local business landscape, and I've learned one thing: facts only tell half the story. I'm Ann Donnelly. Join me for an intimate look at the minds of the innovators and leaders shaping our region. From the North Country Media Network, upstate New York's Voices of Authority, this is Building Success Stories. I'm here today with Kevin O'Brien of TechFirst Insurance Agency. I'm very excited to be talking to Kevin because when they started TechFirst, it's like a new, innovative, technology-driven insurance company.
Yes, ma'am.
But Kevin, you've got years of experience in the insurance industry. Like you started out. Tell us.
Yeah, so it started out, after, SUNY Adirondack back in the day was ACC, then transferred over to Brockport State, and then coming out of Brockport State, was hired by Travelers down in Albany. So I was with
Okay.
them probably 9 years or so.
Mm-hmm.
Then after that, was jumped over to the family agency, O'Brien Insurance.
So your
Um
dad was
Yep.
in the
Yeah, he
business.
started the business in 1957. When I joined in 97, 98, my brother John was there, so joined the family business. And then in 2015, I moved over to Glens Falls National Bank, consolidated their 4 or 5 family agencies that they'd purchased in the
Oh,
insurance world,
okay.
right? So I
Mm-hmm.
consolidated that. We wanted to have a one name, one brand. So that happened. That took about a year and a half with, New York State Insurance Department getting all the approvals, all that
Mm-hmm.
kind of good stuff. And then recently in 2023, just left the bank, right? Moved on to start my own business, which again, Tech
Mm-hmm.
First Insurance Agency. And the whole deal with that name is simply that we want it, again, more consumer friendly, right? Because there's
Mm-hmm.
more tools out there, whether it's, again, your iPhone or, again, tablets these days, just to make it, again, easier for the customer. Because ultimately, it's the customer experience, client experience that we're measuring and making sure that, you're buying a product. Do you know what that product is actually doing for you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
that's it. And, now in the insurance industry, there's more and more tools that I can display and help the client that just really needs to be educated as to you're buying a contract. The contract, remember, is written by and documented by the insurance company, Travelers Insurance, Peerless Insurance.
Mm-hmm.
And you just, our whole job as an independent insurance agent is to explain you have risks, right? And we want to match the insurance carrier that has the right set of, insurance documents that protects your risk, but
Yeah.
also comes in at a comfortable premium. It's the,
Yeah.
in an independent agent, I've got access to probably 12 to 15 different carriers that I can align what
Mm-hmm.
you need with, again, the right coverage stack and also definitely the right pricing.
Yeah. Because that's the big thing, is balancing out how much coverage you really need
Yes.
versus the premium that you can afford to pay
Yeah. Yeah.
or are willing to pay,
Yep. Yep.
because I think a lot of people are thinking, I'm paying all this for insurance, I'm never going to use it.
Correct. Correct.
But you got to have it.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
what types of insurance do you do? All
Yeah,
types?
the only thing I'm not licensed to do is life insurance,
Okay.
right? And also health
Hmm.
insurance. So what we call property casualty, which again could be your personal auto and home,
Hmm.
your snowmobile, umbrella, and then of course into the business world, which we
I
call
was,
commercial,
yeah.
right? And that's just again, any business related conglomerate or just
Hmm.
entity. And the basics for both of those different buckets are liability and property damage,
Hmm.
right? So again, at this office we have liability in case someone trips or falls coming up the stairs. And again, we have coverage in case there's a puff back from the HVAC, so it can
Hmm.
clean up the walls or a fire. But more importantly, these days, especially in the business space, the commercial space,
Hmm.
it's the hot topic these days is cyber,
Yeah.
right? And cyber, hacks. Again, what every customer, every client, needs to know is that when someone's dialing in for dollars, in their hacking machine, they don't know the name of the business, right? They're just looking at your code that's in the internet. And so whether it's somebody from, Texas, or somebody from Ohio, or somebody from, Tanzania, or Pakistan, they're just pushing numbers,
Hmm.
and they're just basically knocking on your door.
To see if they can get
Right.
in.
It's a physical door, and it just happens to be what we call a port. And if you don't have that port locked down, they're going to come in. And again, it could be, a business that their revenue is 150,000 to a business that's, the revenue is 20 million. The hacker doesn't care, doesn't know, right?
They're just looking for
They're
vulnerability.
right. They're just looking for vulnerabilities, as you said, to get into and grab control of your computer system, right? And then they'll send you, or they'll lock it up. They'll send you, I need 2 Bitcoin, right,
Yeah.
or something like that, and I'll give it back to you. So, the industry, the insurance industry has gotten better and better, probably the last 5 or 6 years, at getting the right tools in the cyber insurance coverage, right?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
contract has really been beefed up with, tools that will help you pay the Bitcoin. Tools on, again, the reputational risk is the biggest one that I point out to
Hmm.
all my prospects and clients, is that your reputation is, again, it's hard to put a value in that,
Yeah.
right? You've been around 2 years, you've been around 50 years, and uh, the contract will pay for, again, to put your computer back together again, new software, all that kind of good stuff. But the bigger thing you want to remember is that you don't want the microphone from Mark Mulholland, in front of you
Yes.
as the
Right. We've been
owner.
hacked. Right.
Exactly, right? So the insurance policy provides, a marketing team, right,
Mm.
that will say, "Hey, nothing happened. Just move on. Go to
Yeah.
someone else." And you see it all the time where, "Hey, yep, we got hacked, and but nothing to be seen. We're working through it." And so that is the marketing specialist.
So you help in other ways than just paying off.
Yes, yes, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. Remember is that when there's a hack, right, and it's a claim, right? So you report the claim. It's if you try and compare the cyber hack to, again, this room getting fire damage, right? You come in here, you take the sheetrock down, you put it together, and within a week, right, or 3 days, you're back in business.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen with the cyber,
Yeah.
right? Because again, you got to report it to New York State. You have to start giving the credit reports to all that. All of your vendors, so you got your clients, but then you have your vendors that you're working with. Their information's been compromised,
Yeah.
right? Because they have it now. So then what happens is their insurance company, right? The vendor's insurance company will help them. That vendor insurance carrier will come back to the client that got hacked to say, look, we just paid out $60,000 to clean up that one person and that one entity. Now we want that $60,000 from your cyber insurance policy,
Yeah.
right? So you're getting subrogated against to get
So it's
back.
insurance company to insurance company.
Yes,
It's quite involved.
it is.
So you need a company
Yes.
that is well versed in all of those
Yeah,
things.
yeah. And again, we're in Glen Falls, New York, right? So we're in the Adirondacks. So again, the the area wants to have a face to face,
Yeah.
right? And definitely, I do Zooms, but remember, it's a contract that you're entering into, that you didn't make up that contract,
Yeah.
right? So whenever you don't make up the contract and generate the contract, it's not in your favor. Right.
Yeah.
So that's where, again, exclusions come into the contract of certain things. And again, we go through and we talk through what your risks have, whether you have young drivers, whether you have a jet ski, whether you have a zip line in your back,
Mm-hmm.
back of your house.
Mm-hmm.
There's ways to protect that. Yes, there's an extra cost to that, but the contract can be deviated and changed to
Mhm.
cover your risks,
Yeah.
right? And that kind of stuff. So it's, again, it's a great, um, I'll say service, but again, a great field to get into if you care about people and you want to do the right thing,
Mhm.
then insurance is just like, accounting and professional space. Yeah.
Absolutely. Like a partner that a business needs.
Yes. Yeah. I'm on.
Especially, I mean, there's no business now that doesn't have a technology aspect to it and a cybersecurity need.
y-
Like a lot of my listeners are solopreneurs,
Yes.
small business owners, and they might be thinking, nobody's going to hack me. But like you said,
Yeah.
they're just out there looking for vulnerability.
Correct, right, and they're just dialing for dollars is
Yeah.
realistically what they're doing,
Yeah.
and it's interesting because, again, I've been on the startup ADK program at
Hmm.
SUNY, ACC, and again, those are all new
Yeah.
entrepreneurs, and, my one of my spiels with them is, "Look, you're always, when you start your business, you wanna have an attorney and you have a lawyer, right? But in addition to that, you need to have, an insurance person and probably an HR person just to the HR is not gonna run it, but it's another resource that a new business needs to know how to maneuver in again, both in the insurance world, but also in hiring people,
Hmm.
right? And what that entails.
And insurance touches on so many different aspects
Yes.
of it, like liability insurance
Yeah.
and errors and omissions,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
I think that it's important that you're offering this wide range of different
Yeah. And
types of coverage and,
yeah.
you know.
And just the historical thing looking back is again, as an independent agent, right, to have
Yeah.
access to multiple insurance
Yeah.
carriers as
Yeah.
opposed to a State Farm or
Yeah.
Allstate, they just have one sets of rates.
Yeah.
So, that's good, bad, or indifferent. But moving forward, when my hair gets grayer, and I want
Mhm.
to retire, the
Mhm.
retirement plan in the independent agent system is to again sell to my kids or sell to my friend or something like that, and the
Mhm.
book of business goes over. So a number of years ago, probably going back about 20 years ago, the private equity space, so Wall Street got into the independent agent system because in their mind it's a recurring revenue, it's an annuity,
Yeah.
right? We're paying premiums.
Mhm.
And so in this space, right, from again Saratoga, and it's all over, the country, but in this space, we quote unquote had probably 5 to 7 family-run agencies
Mhm.
over the last 6 years retired,
Yeah.
right? And that retirement plan was again picked up by a
Mhm.
private equity firm, and the private equity, process is again, they're looking, um, to again make sure they get their investment, but also, the service model is different
'Cause
than
how do they
right.
run it if
Correct.
they're not insurance people?
They're not. Right, so they hire insurance people, right?
Okay.
But again, those handcuffs are there by saying, "Look, we've got your client listing, and we see that the top 20%, right, of
Mhm.
your revenue clients, they are driving,
Mm.
the"
Pareto principle.
Correct, exactly, right? So then the 80%, again, don't get the love, right, that they're used to with
Mhm.
the prior family.
Yes.
So
Right, you're
it's
not getting that personal,
no, no,
and
and
they're not as invested
correct.
because 'cause they're not owner
Yes,
operated.
yep, and again, they're here locally, but most of them have not been locally, and again,
Mhm.
that's just economics,
Yeah.
right? When you consolidate their savings, private equity, those investors wanna make sure they get
Mhm.
the return on their
Mhm.
money.
Mhm.
So again, that's where the opportunity now is to, let folks know that have been in other agencies that, look, there's probably 3 or 4 of us in the Glens Falls area that have are continue to be independent agents that are carving their own course, and we do like to come to your house. We do like to help you with your claim, right? We don't really want you talking to a claim adjuster other than reporting it because, again, things happen. So therefore, we're well entrenched in, people's lives and activities because we have to be, because again, the end of the day is a check needs to be cut, right, for that. And again, do you want an AI check or do you want a check coming from a person, right?
Hmm.
Essentially, that's what
The
it comes
money
down
is money.
to. Is
But when it comes to certain things, you'd rather want to deal with a person, probably a local person that you know, because a lot of times when something happens, it's traumatic,
definitely.
and
Yes.
it's, a car accident, damage to your home,
Yes.
or a hacking.
Yes.
Hacking is like very
Yes.
traumatizing because I think a lot of people just don't understand like how it happened and, you've been intruded upon.
Right. And it's the why me,
Yeah.
right? And
What
that's
did I
what
do? I didn't do
correct.
this.
Again, everybody just has to understand if you've got a computer, again, the person on the other line that's knocking on your door, the port, is nothing personal. They're just rolling for
Yeah.
dollars, right?
Yeah.
That's the technique. But again, you do have abilities to protect yourself with the right coverages, because at least in New York State, once you get hacked, you got to notify New York State,
Yeah.
right? And then you have to start all the process and send out the free credit reports and all that
Mhm.
kind of stuff that
Mhm.
comes through there. So definitely the one-on-one or the local flavor, that's what the independent agent channel has always been about.
Mhm.
And it continues to grow. I met with somebody a couple weeks ago that's just getting into it. It was with a big agency and they want to start their own business. So, they're looking for me to mentor them and to, show them, again, the ropes. They've done it on their own, but they just want to have, a phone call to say, hey, look,
Mhm.
should I be writing this kind of client or is it too risky?
So you're helping other
Sure.
insurance.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Again,
great.
it's a great industry to get into,
Yeah.
right? Because again, especially in the North Country, right? It's this one-on-one that this culture wants, right? I mean, I love when I'm going from Warrensburg up to Plattsburgh. I
Mm.
mean, they're just the greatest people and that kind of stuff. And usually when I'm in Stewart's or whatever like that, I've got a tie on and someone I'll be waiting in line or they'll say, "Now, are you a police officer?" I say, "No, I'm worse than a police officer. I'm an
If
insurance agent."
you're in a Stewart's with a tie on, people think
Oh,
you're
yes.
a cop.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean, during COVID when it was
That's so
always yeah, it
funny.
was always that way. Because again, nobody wears ties these days, right? And all that
Mhm.
kind of stuff. So,
Yeah, no, that was a discussion I had in some networking meeting
did you?
about do men need to wear ties anymore?
Correct. Correct. So, I mean, I probably do it 2 or 3 times a week or something like that. But again, it's an icebreaker,
Yeah.
right? At Stewart's, it's like, hey, and so it's a conversation. And, again, I'm a marketing person at, in the center of me, but I
Mhm.
just happen to be selling insurance, right? I
Mhm.
could do anything else. But again, insurance it's stickiness. It's again, doing the right thing for your client, your neighbor, your whatever. And that's really what, really makes me continue to do what I'm doing.
Okay. Yeah. But your skills go beyond insurance because, like you were talking about when you were with Glens Falls National and they started up upstate, right? It's upstate.
Yeah, what we did is there were
So
four.
you
Yeah.
really got that started. You
Yeah, the
were
the
like
consolidation,
instrumental.
the bank had purchased those, and they just wanted to have, again, the branding be one, but also
Mhm.
just one insurance person bringing the 75
Mhm.
people together.
Mhm.
And that, again, like I said, we consolidated it. It took a little bit with New York State with all
Mhm.
their stuff, but coming out of that,
Yeah.
it was a growing entity and,
Yeah.
and, and that kind of stuff. And then, it was just tough during COVID, but got through that. And again, I think definitely in the North Country, most customers or even prospect appreciated that we were, going out and knocking on doors and just saying, "Hey, you had
Mhm.
a fire. Let me just go and see, make sure that everything is right so that,
Yeah.
you get the right check and all that."
Mhm. So when you're with travelers, people know travelers, especially in Glens Falls, because there's a
Yes.
big, huge building with a travelers logo,
Yes.
formerly
Yeah.
that building, and upstate, mainly because if they're doing banking with Glens Falls National, now Arrow, see,
Yes.
things change so much, right? You've
Yes.
seen all this change over the years. And I'm assuming you're closer to retirement age like myself, but you're starting a new business.
Yes.
So what drove you to like, let's start something
Just
new?
because again, it's Kevin does Kevin stuff. It's just I can't sit around and just look at the corner, watch
Mhm.
Oprah or something like that. I mean, my family knows that I'm just going, 24/7 a day.
Mhm.
And more importantly, in our stage of whatever, just don't want to have Alzheimer's. That's
Yeah.
the biggest
Keep the
thing.
mind
Oh,
working. But
definitely.
then getting into technology,
Yes,
which our generation is, but I
correct.
defer because I'm a very technical type person.
Yes.
So we're the exceptions to the rule, maybe,
Yeah, yeah,
or not so much so because
right.
everyone needs to be technology minded.
And again,
Um,
I think I embrace it. There's some
mhm.
people that again, and it's interesting. My older clients, there's again, because of the grandchildren, right?
Mhm.
They know how to do online banking or online payments
Yeah.
and on the phone, all that kind of stuff. So
Mhm.
it's definitely getting, again, technology is not so much of a hurdle as it was, say 10, 15 years ago, right? And the computers are much smaller, they're tablets and not just big
Yeah.
old,
Your phone is a very powerful computer.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And again, that's, that again gets back into cyber, but also gets into insurance. And you just got to know, like there's a couple carriers that, on the automobile insurance, the personal
Mhm.
auto, that if you put an app on your phone,
Yeah.
they will track, right. And give you a lower rate. Um, Sometimes New York State approves that because remember,
Mhm.
just always remember that the insurance industry is regulated by each state,
Yeah.
right? So New York's different than Vermont, then different from New Hampshire, then different from Ohio.
Yeah.
So when you see the ads on TV, right, that are countrywide, and they talk about getting this app on your phone to
Mhm.
give you a lower auto rate, that's not been approved in New York State.
Oh,
Right.
really? I
There's
didn't know
some
that.
there's some devices that are, but
Mhm.
there are some carriers that are bringing more, I guess I'll call it, different technology that New York State
Hasn't
hasn't
approved
approved yet.
yet.
I mean,
Oh,
eventually
that's
it will
okay. That's good
because
to know.
right, because it'll be different
Yeah.
states are getting in, so they'll be pressured. But again, the regulations, are steep. And again, I'm sure everybody been seeing all the stuff that Governor Hochul, wants to again bring down the cost of insurance. And
Mhm.
and that's a fair argument, not so much argument, but decision. And a lot of it is there is some scamming and some in your claims, right? There's a lot of fraud that goes in there.
Yeah.
And between, Governor Hochul and all the insurance companies, they're
Mhm.
trying to, again, get rid of the fraud and excess.
Yeah.
So
So
again,
fraud by clients?
yeah, it's fraud by clients. It's fraud by, again, other perpetrators, right?
Yeah.
That get involved and have scams of,
Mhm.
whether it's fake accidents or fake slips and
Yeah.
falls, the
Yeah.
typical stuff.
Mhm.
And whether or not, again, technology is helping that
Yeah.
fraud get
Mhm.
worse, if that's the right term, that's up for debate. I think in every entity or every service, whatever, there's always fraud.
Yeah.
It's just how dedicated is the user or the government to stamp out fraud, and
Yeah.
how much does it cost to
Mhm.
get fraud down? So
Yeah.
then, therefore, your regular auto policy comes down,
Right. Right.
right?
So that the good user, the honest people don't have to pay for what's
Correct,
going on,
correct, and
which that's a reality of business.
it is, yeah, and
Yeah.
the driving cost, again, of premiums, whether it's the auto or it's the house, is replacement parts, right? And
Yeah.
and again, in the contractor space, again, we haven't had, kids coming out of high school going right into BOCES. Thankfully, now they're starting that back up again. But the trades, you've got to wait. So if you have a house fire, you're waiting I mean, I had a couple years ago, I had a person that was, I think it took him like a year and a half to get back in the house. Just because, again, supply chain information, or
Mhm.
disruption, but also, again, local contractors, just and all the different trades. So all of that drives up the cost.
Especially if there's a specific incident like the storms,
Yeah.
because then there's a lot of people that have claims out and
Yes.
are all fighting over the same contractors to take
Yes.
the jobs.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and that's a plug, at least a plug for, again, the younger generation coming behind, is to get in the trades,
Yeah.
right? I mean, we just need
Mhm.
more. And again, I don't think AI is going to take that over, because you still have to have
Yeah.
someone operating
Certain
a
job.
saw and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, no, we need to, again, have that next generation really get, and whether it's SUNY ACC or whether it's BOCES,
BOCES,
right?
yeah.
That is going to
Mhm.
start that. I mean, they're back in business, right, and they're moving forward on that. So I think that's exciting myself.
That's good.
Yeah,
That's good. So it's an
exactly.
interesting the whole sideline of the trades industry, how it impacts the insurance
Oh,
industry,
most
right? I
definitely.
think all the industries really impact each other, and we don't always think of that enough.
Correct. Right.
So let's talk
Yes.
then about your business partner. I'm not
Oh,
sure how involved he is
Mr.
in
Shaw?
it.
Yeah.
So this all when I first heard about this, it was the big announcement was Mark Shaw and
Yes.
Kevin O'Brien are teaming up.
Yes.
So why Mark Shaw? Why StoredTech?
Mark, yeah. So again, Mark is always an entrepreneur,
Mhm.
right? And has his hands and fingers in a lot of different industries.
Mhm.
So he had always, over the years, him and I had talked at least 2 or 3 times that he
Mhm.
wanted to start up, and get involved in
Yeah.
insurance. Again, had the opportunity back in 23, and we are partnering, and well, we talk every week, right?
Mhm.
And he helps me, get into business. He's got a lot of
Yeah.
contacts. And again, he has given me, more tools that if I was on my own, I wouldn't have, right?
Uh-huh.
So, and he's given insight as to what's coming down the road
Yeah.
on technology.
Mhm.
And no, it's again, it's a great partnership. We, collaborate very well. I have good ideas. He has
Mhm.
great ideas. And the ultimate is that we basically, again, we just want the client experience to be, the gold seal, right?
Yeah.
That again, we remove a lot of the say paperwork that was done in the 80s and 90s,
Yeah.
right? Of going back and forth and all that kind of good stuff. Now we have apps that we can send, or
Mhm.
again, the DocuSign. There's all sorts of different
Yeah.
tools out there that again allow the cooperation, but also the relationship with the client, or even on the other side of that is with the insurance carrier, because as an
Mhm.
independent agent, I go to those 6 or 7 carriers. And, I remember back in the day of faxing everything in. Well, now you've
Yeah.
got, there's all sorts of
Every
different.
once in a while, you'll see a fax number on
Correct.
something, and you're like, "Who's faxing?"
Correct. And it's interesting because again, like in health claims, if you don't have a controlled portal, faxing is the way to go, right? Because I haven't
Still?
seen, yeah, because I don't think I've
So there
seen
are
anybody.
fax
Yeah.
machines places?
Yes. I mean, I have
Wow.
a carrier that requires to be faxing because they're
Mhm.
saying that is a controlled environment.
True.
So, if you don't have a lockdown portal that I
Yeah.
can zoom in, and there's a social
Mhm.
security number on there,
Yeah.
I don't want to be called out on that. Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
fax is definitely in vogue.
So one of my clients, I'm doing a security audit, and it came up that if they did not have certain security measures in place, their insurance would not cover.
Correct. Yes.
So what are things like that that surprise people?
Yeah, and so what that is each insurance carrier, right? They've got the
Yeah.
contract. They made the
Mhm.
contracts. So me as the agent and you as the client, again, don't really have control over that. So what that's saying again is that okay, so if it's XYZ insurance carrier that you have, they don't like that risk. So now we have to move you over to ABC. So there
Yeah.
are carriers, right? I mean, you
Yeah.
can get insurance for anything, right? For your nuclear
Yeah.
lab, you can get an
You
insurance.
may have to pay
You may have to pay a
but
couple $1 million, but that is the how the insurance risk model works,
yeah.
right? You're
Yeah.
you're with one company, and you've been with them for 5 years, and this is what you told them your activities are doing. This
Mhm.
is, when your auto insurance, these are the drivers. Well, now my kids are the drivers, so
Yeah.
there are some companies, we're not in that, so
Yeah.
now we have to move you,
Mhm.
and that's the
They
beauty.
don't always say no, but they
Correct.
might give you a really high premium.
Or because again, the experience when you look at it, it's
Yeah.
been this way for 40 years is, the average driver under 18, under 19 or 20 years old
Yeah.
has 1 or 2 accidents. They're not,
Mhm.
they're little fender benders and all that kind of stuff. And so therefore, there's are ways to decrease that if the driver gets a defensive driving
Mhm.
course, if you bundle all their
Yeah.
stuff together,
Yeah.
right? And home and auto. The more policies, it's just the cafeteria style. The more
Yeah.
policies you're going to,
Mhm.
each policy will get, a discount on there. But again, there are just some carriers that have that finite appetite. And so when you go a little bit outside that appetite, they're going to sting you with a, a $200, maybe even $1,000 increase. That's your time that then is to go to, again, an independent agent that could look for, same
Yeah.
coverages, maybe different pricing,
Mm.
or they could come back and say, no, that's it, you're good. Because
Yeah.
remember that at the end of the time, the stockholders want their dividends,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
It's commercial entity.
it is.
It's not a nonprofit. It's not a
Correct.
social service.
No, definitely not. And there are some insurance carriers that are filed in such a way that as a policyholder, you get a dividend back. If
Really?
oh yes, if you in New York State, there's a couple of them, and if your loss ratios or your losses haven't happened, then the board of directors will declare, okay, let's give $100 dividend back.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I've never seen that myself.
exactly. There's few and far between. There a lot of that's in the agricultural market.
Okay.
And there's certain classifications but
Mhm.
not too many general public, carriers have that. But again, it's out there, and you just got to have the right agent to help you find that.
So the benefit of an agency
Yes,
is
ma'am.
that you've got a few different companies that you can then look at the differences and what best suits that client.
Yes. Yeah. It's the independent agent model has always been as the agent, I'm representing the client, right? And so therefore I'm taking you around, in speed dating, and I'm introducing you to new underwriters, right?
Yeah.
And that way they're looking at your risk profile, and also at, okay, what are the coverages you need? Do you need to have that treehouse covered, right? Do you need to have that
Yes.
pool covered? Well, if you take the diving board off, boom, you're going to win, right? And it's
When
just,
my kids were little, it was all about the trampoline.
yes,
Because people were like, we can't have a trampoline. We can't
Yes.
afford the extra insurance.
Yes.
So it was like, oh, wow.
yes,
Like,
and that continues to happen.
and if you try to get by without having the extra insurance and get
Yes.
found out.
Yes, then they'll non-renew and all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
But it's interesting because again, that it's almost like pickleball now, right? Because when those trampolines came out,
Pickleball.
right, every kid was in the ER.
All those pickleball
Right.
accidents.
Now all those pickleball people are in the ER, right? And again, they're gray like me and all that kind of stuff. So it's the same analogy, right?
That is so funny.
Correct. And so I don't know if health insurance carriers are looking at
Right.
pickleball.
If you play pickleball,
That's right,
you're going to get
going
an
up.
extra premium.
Could be.
Wow.
Exactly. Yes.
That's so funny.
So that's a wonderful world. I mean, that's why insurance is so, it's transparent, but it's also mobile because it affects, whether it's your personal, insurance needs, or it's your commercial, or it's your health, or your business. We're there all over the place. And again, the key thing is you just need to find the right person that will help you maneuver and migrate through, the different insurance carriers.
Yes.
Right. And rates have gone up. Yes, it's rebuilding cost. Yes, it's lack of contractors. So that's there. But also in New York State, we've had some insurance carriers leave the state because, again, they wrote some risks that they weren't pricing properly for.
Okay.
And the board of directors slapped them and said, okay, we don't want New York State anymore. So go over to Pennsylvania and do better in Ohio, that kind of good stuff. I don't say it was the bad insurance carrier.
Yeah.
It's just, again, people want to make money. They need to make money.
Yes.
Right.
Right. If they're not making money, they're not going to be covering you well.
Correct.
That's
right. They'll go out of business, and the
Right.
stockholders will be very upset because they won't have that stock any longer.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So
yeah.
that's a reality people have to have. Like when you complain about getting charged for little things here and there, there's usually a reason for it.
Yes.
It's not like extortion. It's
No.
like cost of doing business, and the consumer needs to pay for that. It's just a reality.
Yeah.
But it's just the way you package it and tell people. I think,
Correct.
too.
It's all
like,
about it's all about the communication.
transparency,
Yes. And
being upfront.
yes. Yep.
Yeah.
And just, looking them over and just saying, okay, well, look, at this point in time, I really would like to write you, but, my expertise is telling me that you should stay where you are. I know you don't like that situation with XYZ, but if you leave and you move, there could be a higher cost to
Mm-hmm.
that because remember, especially in personal auto insurance, they're looking at they can look at your motor vehicle record, they can look at your loss history. It's all out there in the
Yeah.
cloud, and it follows you for at least 3 to 4 years. So if you get somebody that's going to take those losses, those claims, they may be new to New York State, a new insurance carrier coming in. Eventually, they're not going to make their numbers. Their
Mm-hmm.
stockholders are going to be upset, and they'll flee the state.
Yeah.
So we always want to have stability in the marketplace that we can take some different risks and spread them out. I mean, that's
Yeah.
realistically what it is.
That's kind of what insurance is.
Yes, spreading the
Right.
risk,
Yeah.
right? And just remember that, you've got your regular, Allstate, Travelers, all that kind of good stuff, those carriers. But on top of that, at certain levels, they don't Travelers doesn't reach into their pocket for every claim. They
Mm-hmm.
go to the reinsurance market, which is the insurance carrier of the
Yes.
right of the insurance carrier, right? And so that market up there, and it definitely, dictates the rates, and it all
Mm-hmm.
falls right down to.
So who insures the insurance carrier's insurance carrier?
There's a third level up there. There definitely, and that would be probably Lloyd's of
Like
London.
I was gonna say
Yes.
like
Yes.
the big bank.
Yeah. And again, I mean,
Mhm.
and you mentioned government insurance. I mean, government insurance that comes into play, and again, business people will see that on their commercial policy where there's a terrorism coverage, right?
Mm-hmm.
That you can either elect to have or you can't, and that came out of 9/11. So
Mm-hmm.
that's where the government comes into.
Can you imagine being insurance agent down at that time?
Mm, no, no,
Or even like people are struggling in LA with all the wildfires and
correct.
how much damage and the extent of damage
Yes,
and
yeah.
finding people to help you rebuild and
Yep.
like, you know.
Yep. And then, up until probably a couple years ago, and again, that's a great point where there's Texas, Florida, California, Midwest, whatever. The way that the insurance world works is, again, State Farm, Travelers, all the big
Mhm.
companies, they're in all those states. And so it typically what happens is the state that they're in can take care of all those losses. But when you have Florida, or more importantly, when you have California that just continues to have that
Mhm.
year after year, then
Yeah.
to afford rates in California, you then have to go to Nevada and pull that in,
Mhm.
which then means because it's been a couple years, but there's been, again, some of those big carriers that have to pull and increase rates in other states,
Ye
right? Which has never been the model. That's not, and
Yeah.
so they're readjusting the model.
Right.
Definitely, because again, they want to have everything be state specific
Yeah.
that falls into the regulations and all that.
Mhm. Very interesting. So I've learned a lot about insurance today that I
Exactly.
did
Yeah.
not.
The wonderful world of
The
insurance,
wonderful
right?
world.
Just, again,
It's
you
worth
know,
having a conversation
it
with
is
you.
definitely worth a cup of coffee or something, to that point. And again, especially in business insurance, I think there's more opportunities for, getting the right carrier and the right insurance agent to match your risks with the right pricing, right?
Yeah.
And again, you know, I'll call it the vacuum of again what I talked about before, where there was 4 or 5 or 6 family agencies that retired and then sold out.
Mhm.
It's just, again, if you're into the internet and you want to talk to somebody, you want to get that policy, fine. But
Mhm.
majority of Adirondack people want to have a face to face, because when the claim hits, and years ago I always say if you had a claim, but now it's just when the claim hits,
Mhm.
you want to talk to your insurance agent, because again, it happens all the time where they have a minor fender bender, right? Hit a deer, whatever like that, or just bump into a fire hydrant. And so the first thing they do is, I got to report this. Well,
Yeah.
I always say, look, just give me a call, right? Because I want to
First.
size it up.
Yeah.
And what I'm going to have you do is get an estimate, right? Because do you want
Mhm.
to pay this out of your pocket, or do you want to, again, have the carrier pay it?
Right. So it
I
might
always
be
give the
worth paying
options.
out of pocket
Yes.
if it's certain levels,
Yes.
and you'd be a good person to discuss that with before you make a claim.
Yes. Yep. And the same thing I do with again, homeowner businesses, or
Mhm.
again, businesses
Yeah.
where they have claims. again, yes, you've got a leaky roof. It's, it's ice dam this winter. A lot of stuff that happen. I get it. Just have someone go up their roofer and knock the ice off,
Yeah.
put some blue tarps on, and then in the springtime, in April or whenever,
Mhm.
we can look at what is the estimate to fix that,
Mhm.
right? And again, depending on your deductible and pricing,
Yeah.
you may want to nope, just pay that yourself,
Mhm.
right? Because again, the way, at least in New York State right now, because of, again, other carriers that have left, right? So it's, it's the competition. So when you lose 4 or 5 carriers and there's only 20 rather than 30 or 25 left, the competition just doesn't matter, or it doesn't
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
So that's why, again, reporting claims these days, you definitely want to talk to your agent, not so much the carrier. I love the carriers, but again, I want you to talk to your agent,
Mhm.
because you want to have that conversation of, okay, hey, sorry, just okay, someone hit you. I get it. It was parked in Hannaford. I get that. But understand that 2 years ago, the deer hit you, because remember,
Yeah.
you never hit the animal, right? The animal always hits you. That's the insurance
Yeah.
language.
Yes.
Okay. Animal always hits you. But anyways, if you have
Like
something
the
in,
fire hydrant hits you?
yeah, we could go with that. But, when you had something and then 2 or 3 years later, you have another one that is,
Yeah.
again, moldy or something like that. You just want to have, a talk with your agent, just
Yes.
to make sure that, when you have, two things, that's going to get the attention of the underwriter. Because again, in New York State, for at least the last 20 years,
Mhm.
and probably going to be more, but, um, the average driver, has one incident that could be a stop sign ticket. It could be a DWI. It could be a deer. One incident
Mhm.
every 7 years.
Okay.
So if you got 2 or you got 3 in 7 years,
Mhm.
the underwriter is looking at it and say, oh, I'm in New York. That doesn't make sense
That's a bit
because,
more than the
yes.
average.
Yep. And more importantly, the premium I'm going to charge you has not been, by the actuary, right, that comes up
Mhm.
with that, has
Uh-huh.
not been justified.
Yes.
So that's why, again, it's the agent. And like we talked about earlier, when you're in small business, you've got your attorney, you've got your accountant, you need to have, again, HR person and the insurance
Mhm.
person. That
Mhm.
that's your team, so
Mhm.
that you can run your business and not worry about the back room.
Okay. Now that's a good segue then to
Yes.
talking a little bit about business. So you've been
Yes.
successfully in business. You have many honors. I'm not going to list them all off. Look in the show notes for that.
Yeah.
But including the Walter Junket was
Yep.
a very high honor from our esteemed Adirondack Regional Chamber of Commerce.
Yes, that was a shared. There was a shared one that was John, my brother John, and I. We got
Oh,
that,
nice.
and Tom Murphy was the roaster of that.
Roaster.
Yes, that was it. Was classic ones.
Yeah,
I'm sure it's taped someplace, but
to
it,
look it up.
yeah, because it's definitely not.
A link to it in the
It's
notes.
not the ones that you've seen probably in the last 6 years.
Okay.
It's just a total different one.
Yeah.
So it was
I'm
good.
newish to the area. I've been here 8
Yes.
years, so that was before my time here in this area. But so you probably have a lot of good advice. So how would
Yes.
you advise? Like you said, you're involved in 80K Startup, which is a very good program at SUNY Adirondack
Yep.
for people starting their own business.
Yes.
So what kind of advice do you give to someone that's thinking about starting a business or
Yeah.
new into starting a business?
Yeah, and it's, again, you got to have the passion, right? And more importantly, there's always the you got to be very very good at time management, especially if
Mm-hmm.
it's me and me, right? I
Yes.
talk to myself 3 different ways every day, but you got to have passion to do it. You got to really really nail down these days your time, right? And
Yes.
it's going to take probably a good, I would say any business these days is going to be at least 2 to 4 years
Mm-hmm.
before you don't have the pain any longer. And that
It's hard to be patient through that.
it is. And how you do that is do you do another job? Do you do a
Right.
sidekick or
Yeah.
whatever, like that kind of stuff, and just, do that. But back to your question is again, having the right team supporting it. Yes, it's your
Mhm.
family, because they need you need to make sure that they're on ball with this, but also reaching out to, again, that attorney, that accountant, the insurance person, and the HR person. And
Mhm.
that's just a cup of coffee at Spot Coffee or something, or Crew Coffee that's there, just saying, hey, here's what I'm bouncing off. And
Mhm.
again, through the chamber, they have a lot of tools. Right. They can have some advisors help you go through that. These days, again, I think with technology, if you can find a really super niche,
Yeah.
right? That
Mhm.
then I think you're in your silo, and you're able to drive
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
the economic piece of that. But again, it's just, you know, you get your business plan, chamber approves that, all that kind of good stuff. You get some consultants helping you with that.
Yeah.
Then it's just matter of, okay, answering the phone, right? Answer the phone, return phone calls,
Mhm.
especially in the Adirondacks and Glen
Mhm.
Falls, New York. That is the kicker. You need to do that. And on top of that, just get out, and like in my calendar, I have 2 days where, the second half of the day it's prospecting, and you're just
Mhm.
knocking on doors.
So you allocate time prospecting,
Yes.
and it includes literally knocking on doors?
Yes. Yes.
'Cause I've heard other people say that, just go in there.
Yes. Yes. That is coming back.
So do you go down to Glen
Yeah,
Street?
I'll just stand in the middle of Glen Street. I'll yell my name, and some people come and talk. But no, it's just, I mean, I've got clients that I've had.
Yes.
Now I'm coming back to them. So going up to Chestertown, going to Plattsburgh,
Mhm.
going Saratoga.
Retaining clients is probably the best selling tool,
Oh, it is.
right?
Yes.
That's, it's the
Yes.
easiest to retain your clients, but it's important because in insurance especially,
Yes.
because
Yes.
people think, "Oh, I might get a better price somewhere else,"
Yes.
where you
Yeah.
gotta keep that relationship.
Yeah. And again, that's where the technology comes in, because I have, set up again some tools that will, hit you probably 4 times a month with, hey, do you know about this? Do you know about that? And, again, when the renewal time comes up, I'm reaching out to them to say, hey, look,
Yeah,
renewal's coming up. And, have you changed, have you added in a pool?
because people forget these things.
Correct. And more importantly, in your business, have you grown? Because most of the business policies, the commercial business policies,
Mhm.
a lot of them, especially workers' comp, you start a policy and you are estimating what your sales are going to be and
Yeah.
what your payroll. So then there are some underwriters that want to then, after your first year, they want to look back to say,
Mhm.
okay, you said you were gonna make $100, and you're gonna pay $5 in salary. So what you do? So they open up the QuickBooks and they say, oh, geez, you made $200 and your payroll is $10.
Yeah.
Well, now we need to claw back the money that we insured you at and covered you at. So that audit process, again, a lot of carriers send the audit forms and all that kind of stuff to the client,
Yeah.
which is fine. But again, Kevin
They're
O'Brien,
like, "What is this pack of papers?"
correct.
"Oh, I really need to look at it."
Right. And that's the conversation I have with the client by
Yeah.
saying, look, we can get together, we can talk through this mojo, whatever that term is, and we can get you through that. Right.
Yeah.
And that kind of stuff. So
Mhm.
again, that's just the benefit
Mhm.
of having an independent agent
Yeah.
going.
But no, it's
Yes.
a good example of, yeah, and it just happens that insurance, because you've got renewals,
Yes.
it's a good excuse to get in touch with existing clients.
Yes.
But if you don't have that type of business, you've got to find other ways to keep.
Yes.
So pick up the phone or stop
Correct.
by and say,
Correct.
"Hi, and how you
Yep.
doing?"
I
And
mean, if you want to
yeah.
get in, if you want to get into the trades, if you want to be a sheetrocker, right?
Mhm.
Again, you do OCs, whatever, and then you
Mhm.
get into chamber, but also maybe there's unions, or again, you're
Mhm.
knowing people. You're going to
Mhm.
Curtis Lumber, you're going to Lowe's and hanging out there, and you're talking to contractors that are
Yeah.
always looking. Again, they're always
Mhm.
looking for help, right?
Yes.
They can never,
Yeah.
get enough, is really realistically what it
Mhm.
is. And we have some really good, contractors, Hilltop right up the street. I mean, they have a really good model of bringing and
Yeah.
onboarding their employees.
Well, like partnership, we're talking about partnerships. Like you made a partnership with Mark Shaw to start up
Yes.
this company, looking at other partnerships to help grow your business. And they're
Yes.
not necessarily a business partner,
Correct.
but there's someone that you're aligned with that you can help their clients, they can help your clients.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And part of that is the score process that the chamber has, which
Yeah.
again helps the startups.
Yes.
But no, definitely, and I always say it's just the Adirondacks. I'm sure in other states that again, people to people conversations, right?
Yeah.
And we all know that in our circle of influence, we're only like two circles away from knowing the person
Yes.
that we really should know to help us do that, right? And so it's just getting out there, putting yourself out there, right? Having the confidence of saying, okay, yep, I had 3 doors, slapped in my face today, but I've got 2 that they want me to come back next week,
Yes.
right? And that's,
Yeah.
again, that's just the way the process works.
Yeah.
Right. Because I mean, back to insurance, you see all the commercials for Geico and Progressive and all that and Liberty Mutual. And those are, again, attractive. But when you go to them directly,
Yeah.
again, they have their script,
Yeah.
right? And they're not always explaining what the coverages are and what New
Yeah.
York State wants and that kind of
And they're
stuff.
not shopping around.
No, they're just
Where
doing
you
one
shop
rate.
around.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's providing a good service,
Yes.
which is very important in
Yes.
business.
Yeah, definitely.
So also you're very community minded. Now I had the privilege of speaking with, do you know Colleen Carlson? She's the sales director at Saratoga Casino Hotel.
Yeah, no, I haven't. No, haven't.
Now she's a sales director.
Yeah.
And she's like, all of my sales is done through all my charitable and community work that I do. So she's very community minded, and that's her sales trick.
Yes.
But it's just her life. It's what drives her. And
Right.
she's, like I said, she's genuinely very community minded, and it's worked really well for her.
Yeah.
So you're involved on boards, you're involved in a lot of different community organizations. So how has that driven you and helped you with business?
Yeah, no, it's again, when I started a long time ago with the local United Way, it was just to get out, right? And again, talk to other people and understand what the whole nonprofit scene is all about. And so from there, been, as you said, a lot of different boards and that kind of stuff, but really the model for nonprofits is you have the director, right? That is the leader, and they know what the nonprofit mission is. They then come to the community to find out, okay, who's good in marketing, who's good in fundraising, who's good in, balancing a book and all that, checkbook and all that kind of good stuff. So that's the beauty. And the boards that I've been on, if everybody stays in their lane, right? So the director does the tree hugging and they know their mission. Right. And if the board members understand, good, bad, or indifferent, that they're not to be in that lane, then it's happening.
Were you at the symposium last week?
No.
No, because it was all about that.
I saw about it because I tried to get
I
there,
did
but
a
was too
write-up
late.
on it.
Yes.
And it was all about
It
that.
was.
Knowing your role, and
Yes.
it's different depending on
Yes.
the organization. Yes, that's
Yeah.
interesting that you reiterate that.
It is because, again, there was way back in the day, prior to SUNY ACC, I remember going there and we walked into the student center and it was put on by ACC at the time. And basically you went in and there were 2 rooms. And so executive directors, right, for nonprofits went to the right, and to the left were all the board members. And for 4 or 5 hours, they just told us, those 2 different camps told us, here's what nonprofit's about. Stay in your lane. And so again, good, bad, or indifferent. And, a lot of volunteers have great ideas. But again, when you jump over the lane, that double yellow line, the cops are coming.
But you need clarity on what your lane is.
Yes.
What your role is and what your expectations are.
And that's again, actually, and it's tough these days because I just remember, going back to ACC, that a lot of professional business people, whether it's bankers, lawyers, whatever, back in the 80s, there were programs up there that we could go to, right? And fashion our skills and all that kind of good stuff. And again, I don't think that's there. I don't, because it's there's not enough people coming back into the nonprofits.
That's a struggle now.
And I understand that because again, in the family setting right now, you have 2 breadwinners, and out of that, they're probably 2.5 salaries, and you don't have time. So you don't have time to, and with kids, so there's a, the nonprofit space there is getting tougher and tougher. But certain times when you get into your late 30s and 40s, then you have the time, right, to spend and give
the
back.
kids are older.
Yes. Yep. And the whole idea, again, at least up here, is you're giving back to the community in whatever way. And that could be your skill set, or it could be is what, we're alluding to is, hey, I know I got a guy, no, I got a gal that can help
Yeah.
this board do something,
Yeah.
right? Because that's the reach that, at least in this area that we're in, the Tri-County
Mhm.
area, businesses are for doing donations, whether it's
Mhm.
money or services or just their people, right? And that's the beauty of it. But, again, yes, I've been on an awful lot of boards and stick with them as much as I
Mhm.
can afford the
Mhm.
time. And again, it's from my dad, I mean, he was on board, so it was almost just following what they did
Okay.
back in the
Yeah. I
60s
guess
and
that does make
70s.
sense that if you
Yes.
grew up in that and your
Yeah.
parents led.
Yes. In that culture that they set back in the
Yeah.
70s, right? That's continued on.
Yeah.
And again, there's just a lot of, one of the things I remember a long time ago with PostStar, they always did, surveys and all that kind of stuff. And they never surveyed from an economic standpoint what the nonprofits bring to this economy.
Yeah.
Right. And they bring an
Mhm.
awful lot.
Mhm.
So now, and probably in the last 15 to 20 years, the nonprofits are being looked at.
Yeah.
No doubt about
Mhm.
that. And again, from an economic
Because
standpoint.
events seem to be a very big thing for all the
Yes.
nonprofits.
Yeah. And again, it's
Yeah.
it's it's a revenue generator, so there's payroll,
Mhm.
there's taxes that come
Yeah.
out of that, all that kind of good stuff, and that goes to the local economy. So again, I ask anybody for, your time, whether you're
Mhm.
retired or whether you're working, just look at up the nonprofits and get involved because,
Mhm.
yeah, will you get some financial gain out of that? Yes, but it's not the true financial gain because it'll probably be a second wave off the
Yeah.
board or something like that
Yeah.
that'll come in. Because, well, again, I've been asked many times to, cover and have insurance for, the boards I'm on. I'm like,
Mhm.
that's too
Not
controversial.
your thing.
No,
Yeah.
no, because
Too closely
it
tied
is, it
and
is because, I'm on
but it's the
executive boards.
connections that
Yes.
you make
Oh,
and
most of
personally fulfilling. Like I
yes,
said, I did it as a segue as a business type thing,
yes,
but really it's about building the community and contributing to the overall
yes.
community. And I
Oh,
think that's one of the things I love about the chambers that I'm
yes,
involved with. They're very community minded, very supportive of the
yes.
nonprofit. Like the ARCC has a
Yeah,
council
perfect.
and it's quite active
Yes,
and there's quite significant membership, but
yes,
you could see from that event, like,
yes.
I think it was the first no, I wasn't the first event that I went to with that council,
Yep.
but that event in itself was quite
Yes,
impressive.
and then there's very good people in there, right? I
Yeah.
mean, on skill sets and just economically, as again highlighting that whole nonprofit is really a big part of our economics in
It
this
really
areas,
is.
right? And
Really
a
is.
lot of people forget that. So every now and then you just got to bring it back
Yeah.
out, and
Yeah.
that's what the chamber's doing
Yeah.
because we need them. I mean, there's a social service. You need that, right?
Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't realize that, and, like, you're involved in Open Door, we
Yep.
were talking about that, like, before I moved to this area, I didn't realize that homelessness or near to homelessness and food
Yeah. Food insecurity.
poverty, food insecurity
Yes.
is huge
Yes.
here.
Yes. Almost definitely.
And you see so much of it now.
Yes.
I don't know if it's post COVID or just that the fact that but so these services are greatly needed. And you're
Yes.
involved in United Way. Tri County United Way is a great
Yep.
organization. And
Yep.
I've met Laura Jensen. I
Yeah.
interviewed her at the Women in
Oh,
Business a
nice.
few weeks ago. And I posted it soon as I could because she had events coming up. They're small, full time 2 or 3 full-time employees, but they do a lot with their
Yeah.
volunteers. So they
Yeah.
need those
Yeah.
volunteers and
And right now at this time it's somewhat coming up to end here on April
yeah.
15th, but they do, I mean, I've been involved for a number of years into the VITA program, which is volunteer income tax assistance.
Yes,
So it's a
yeah.
free service where
Mhm.
anybody can get a free tax return, both state and federal. I think this year the cap on the income is $70,000. So it's a great,
Mhm.
again, like I said, I've done
Yeah.
it. You get a real good kick out of it. And again, it's
Mhm.
a lot of it. yeah, you're talking to the client because you're going through all their different documents, but also it's, you're helping them understand,
Yeah.
why is there a payment due, or why is you're getting this big
Because you've got the
project?
skills. And I think
Correct.
that's the thing about community service is you're bringing the skills that you've developed throughout your career to people that really need it
Yes.
and can
Yes.
make a difference.
Correct. Right. And again, it's a balance, especially in the family life. It's a balance of whether or not, you can spend 2 hours a week with different nonprofits, or
Yeah.
again, is just in the family life right now, you just can't, because each child is less than 10 years old, right? And that kind of good
Yeah.
stuff. So it comes around. I mean, there's been a number of people that I've always engaged at boards or Rotary or whatever like that, that they come on and they're good and they want to do
Yeah.
it. And then, again, something gets in the way, and you just say, that's fine. I've
Yeah.
been through that.
Sometimes you got to say no.
Correct. And if you want to come back in 2 years, that's fine, and all that kind
Yeah.
of stuff.
Yeah.
And the one big, taboo that I've always, talked about, and that is especially with nonprofits, is that when you have an event, right, and you're the leader of the event and all that kind of stuff, you
Hmm.
put it together, um, and then you're saying, oh, geez, I need 10 volunteers. Right. And you have the staff, and then you have volunteers, and you have board members. Again, the one thing you always want to keep in mind is when you invite those volunteers in, and say 9 of them, or even say 12 of them, you
Hmm.
look for 10 and 12 come,
Hmm.
you never turn them away. Never,
Hmm.
right? You take one of the board members and they do something else, but you don't have a volunteer come on a Saturday morning at 8 a.m.
Yeah.
and say, oh, gee, sorry, but we don't need you now.
No, there's always something to do.
That is the worst
Right.
thing that
Yeah.
any nonprofit can do.
Yep.
So,
The volunteers are important.
oh yeah, yeah, most definitely.
Hmm.
Yeah.
All right. So do you have any other wisdom to impart on us today?
Lots of different things, but no, it's just, again, I mean, getting back, the three, I think, three stools that I always go on is again on the business life. In the business, we've all talked about it, just again, get the right insurance person,
Hmm.
right? And stick with them. Yes, there'll be ups and downs along the way,
Hmm.
but as long as there's a great relationship, right? And
Yeah.
making sure that, again, in these days, everybody's got to return phone calls, right? And yes, everybody loves to do email. That's always when you do an email,
Yeah, I'm bad at
right?
phone calls.
Yeah, you sort of hide behind what the question really is, right?
Hmm.
And again, and I know it's, I mean, I do phone calls on Saturday nights, Sunday nights, Monday morning. I'm just, because, again, for me, insurance is 24/7, because, again, a house could, or a fire could happen, something like that, a hack could happen. So, that's one of the stools. And then, you know, giving back, that's the whole nonprofit piece.
Yeah.
Right. And then, the third one is just, we're not in control. There's someone above us that
Hmm.
is already has it all planned out.
Hmm.
So don't mentally go and manage that or fix that. Right.
Okay.
It's just, again, it's the way things happen.
Hmm.
And if you just sit back and let it happen, most people, not so much profit for that, but it just
Yeah.
have a good feeling.
That's a good
So
feeling.
yeah,
Right?
yes, exactly.
That's
Most definitely.
excellent
Yes.
advice. These conversations often begin as feature articles for the Saratoga and Glens Falls business journals. We've partnered with them to turn those printed insights into broadcast quality authority assets, allowing you to hear the person behind the business in their own words. Thank you for listening to Building Success Stories, a production of the North Country Media Network. Our mission is to document the professional legacies and success stories that drive our region forward. To discover more shows in our network, or to learn how we can help you own the conversation in your industry, visit us online at northcountry.media. I'm Ann Donnelly, and until next time, keep building your success story.